Welcome back. We're discussing what kind of threat Iran poses to global security and what position the US should take on this issue. I'm joined by Hilary Mann-Leverett, the former director of Iran Affairs at the National Security Council. She left the Bush administration in 2004 and now heads the political consultancy firm Strategia. And Dr. Ronen Bergman, a leading Israeli journalist who's just published The Secret War with Iran, the 30-year clandestine struggle against the world's most dangerous terrorist power. Let's get back to our discussion with two calls back to back. We'll take the first one from Iqbal in South Africa. Iqbal, go ahead, please.
Hello, good evening, Riz. The question is not whether Iran is a threat to world stability. The problem is Israel and the United States are the biggest threat to world security and peace. They invade other countries, they interfere in other countries, they bomb other countries, they terrorize other countries, and then they want to make out like Iran is a threat to them. Iran has always said this is for peaceful purposes. In fact, Israel has 200 nuclear warheads, and nobody says a thing about that. And they've invaded countries surrounding
Iqbal,
them.
Sorry, Iqbal, I'm going to now go to Hassan in Saudi Arabia as well. Hassan, please, your comments.
Yeah, hi, Riz.
Hi.
Yeah, your guest, is saying that they should stop the Iranian program because they declared they want to demolish Israel. Now, if you look at it from the other point of view, now the vast majority of the Muslim and Arab countries, they think Israel is a threat to them. So Israel shouldn't have nuclear weapons. It's both ways. We cannot just talk about one and leave the other. Okay. I hope your guest addressed this point clearly.
Okay, thank you. So obviously a fairly harsh judgment here from Iqbal in South Africa, and Hassan saying that again is this perhaps a misunderstanding on who's really at fault here. I wonder, Dr. Bergman, in terms of what you feel as a threat coming from Iran, how quickly would you like to see action taken? How much of a deadline do you feel there is, and how do you address what the callers have said?
First, I'm not representing, of course, the Israeli government, so they and not about nuclear arsenal that Israel has or doesn't have anyway. But I will say about Iran that the involvement of Iran in what is described by the international community, not by Israel, in terrorism, meaning support to Hezbollah, which is publicly announced by Iran, the involvement in terrorism worldwide in Europe, and there were Iranian intelligence representatives that they were caught and sent to jail in Europe and in South America, and I can continue with that list. So this is undisputable means of destabilization and subversion in regimes all over the world. Now, about the time frame that I see, I hope that nobody would take any sort of military action against Iran, and this issue would be solved, like happened with Libya, in a peaceful mean and a comparison, sort of a compromise with the Iranian regime. However, as a last resort, and I think Israel demonstrated very clearly in attacking what it sees as an existential threat by the Syrian reactor. Israel, at the end of the day, is pursuing what is termed as the Begin Doctrine, follow up the Menachem Begin order in 1981 to bomb the Iraqi reactor Tammuz Iraq near Baghdad. Israel would never tolerate and should not tolerate the fact that a country that calls for its destruction holds the means to do that.
Now, I wonder if there is that last resort, Hilary Mann, what would be the knock-on effects, in your opinion, throughout the region?
If there's an attack, an Israeli or an American attack? Well, I think first and foremost, inside Iran, we would see the president, Ahmadinejad, who has suffered some serious questions about his credibility and his popularity. I think you would see a rallying around the flag, that the great percentage of the population would rally to support. The regime would be able to consolidate its power and its hold, and would pursue a nuclear deterrent because they needed to do that, because they actually had a real attack inside their borders.
Would justify it.
It would absolutely justify it. And even if you would have some governments in the Middle East, some Arab governments, maybe privately thinking this was a good thing for the United States to do, they would be at odds with their population. The populations, I think, across the Arab world, throughout the Middle East, would be very angry about an American or Israeli attack and would therefore support Ahmadinejad. You would see in taxi cabs all over Cairo, you would see Ahmadinejad's poster in every one of those.
And of course there is the issue of whether or not the US can actually afford that kind of two-front, that one viewer wrote in an email, two-front attack.
Israeli intelligence assessed that the Iranians can retaliate in 4 different alternatives. It's either to launch surface-to-surface Shihab missile that can hit Israel. They have between 70 and 90 missiles equipped only with conventional warfare. They can order Hezbollah to attack again, as we saw in the summer of 2006, and they have a vast capability to damage Israeli life. They can attack tankers in the Gulf, and more important, they can operate sleeper cells that were dispersed throughout the world by Hezbollah as a sort of a means in time to deliver a revenge for any sort of a knockout to the Iranian facilities.
Can I just add one quick point to that? That the impact, I think, has now, particularly with the conflict in Georgia this month, has actually expanded. And there are reports that the Russians are planning to send Russian advisors, scientists, technicians to the Bashir nuclear facility in Iran. So if there were an attack, you're not just talking about the reaction in the Arab world or in Iran. There could be Russian lives that are at stake, and that could actually open another front in this resurgent Cold War we're seeing. Let's
get a call in from Toronto. Shaheen's on the line. Go ahead, please.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thanks. Thanks for your patience.
First of all, I want to ask you, please don't say Iran or Iranian. Complete it as a Islamic Republic of Iran, because I am an Iranian.
Okay, well, forgive our abbreviations, but what's your question, please?
And I want to say the simple way, instead you talking about the nuclear or human rights or terrorists, all of this is going to be all right. Just the European Union and the Democrat Party don't support the Islamic Republic of Iran. Don't support it. Everything going to be all right after that. Thank you.
Okay, that's actually an interesting point. That the involvement of Europe in this. What role is? Because we're talking about the U.S. to a large degree. What about Europe's involvement, from what you know?
Well, Europe's involvement has really dramatically changed from what it was in the Bush first term. If you remember, in the Bush first term, Schroeder was in charge in Germany, Chirac was in France. These countries were really questioning U.S. foreign policy, not just in Iraq, but worldwide. The administration has really benefited from changes in the election of Merkel and Sarkozy, and even the loss of Tony Blair in the UK has not really shifted that. The shift has been towards a much more pro-American, pro-Bush administration American foreign policy in Europe. And what I see as the unfortunate impact of that is that the Europeans have, in a way, acted as an enabler of a very failed, fatally flawed Bush administration policy to pursue sanctions that are never going to work.
How do you feel any change in administration here, particularly if Barack Obama was to become president, how do you feel that might change the dynamic between Israel, the US, and of course when it comes to Iran?
Israel, worst scenario, and I'm quoting a high-rank military intelligence official, Israel worst scenario is an American president that would pick up the phone, call the Israeli prime minister and say, listen, you want to bomb Iran? That's fine with me. I'm not going to condemn you. I'm going to support you. You want an aerial corridor via Iraq? That's fine with me, but you are on your own. So from the Israeli point of view, Barack Obama, as seen today, and things can change, is the worst case scenario. And if you go and ask Israeli officials dealing with Iran, they would prefer to have McCain in the Oval Office. Do
you get that sense in the US as well, that there's a lot of attention now being paid to what will happen with Iran?
There is, and you look at the Republican National Convention and Sarah Palin, the vice presidential nominee of the Republican Party. She has had very, very few meetings. The one meeting she had in Minnesota at the Republican Convention was with AIPAC, with the American Israel Public Affairs Committee. The McCain-Palin ticket is looking at the Israeli issue and anything that is important to Israel, particularly Iran, taking it very seriously and pursuing it in what I see as perhaps an extreme way, because they think that's the way they're going to get the vote.
Just to make one thing clear, I believe that the Iranians would never drop the bomb on Israel. They know that Israel has the capability to retaliate. They might support suicide terrorism, but they are far, far, far from being suicidal themselves.
Well, Dr. Bergman, Hilary Mann, great to see you both again. Thank you so much
for your discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for being with us too. On the next show, we speak with a revolutionary educator who asks, do schools kill our children's creativity? Sir Ken Robinson has advice for parents, children, governments and business people. You want to see that one, it's interesting. We'll see you next time.